let's freaking go. We are growing here on the Fantasy Football Card Quest. His name's Andy. My name's Carter. I'm telling you, we have like one of our best guests we've ever had. We're going to tell you about it a little bit later. We're dropping that conversation a little bit later in the week. But what we want you to do today, comment down below or just shoot us a message. Do you like Optic better than Prizm? I find this conversation to be interesting. Andy, you have been looking at the prices as well. It is very interesting because, you know, we're so Prizm focused. We're always looking forward to the Prizm release. But it is interesting that Optic has been pretty hot right now.
Very hot, very hot. It's also, mainstream retail product just like Prizm. But what is so interesting, Carter, if you look at the top draft picks from 2021, we'll take Ja'Marr Chase as an example because he's one of our favorite skill position players.
Yeah.
In Optic, he's got 108 different cards, according to TCDB.com, trading card database. In Prizm, he's got 230 different cards. So that's over twice as many different variations of Prizm than Optic. And we've seen this in 2020. We saw this in 2019, 2018. If you go look at the pop reports of Kyler Murray from 2019, the pop reports of Optic are a lot less than that of Prizm. And we can kind of see that in the available listings. But at the same time, these Optic cards, when you compare scarcity to scarcity, are about the same retail price. Like if you look at an Optic auto from any of these guys, we did a price comparison of Javonte Williams, for example, because the Optics have an on-card auto. Most times those are serial numbered, and it's basically that got rated rookie with a chrome finish. They're selling for the same as the Prizm Silver auto, which is non-serial numbered, sticker auto, but it has the Prizm brand.
Give me the Optic auto all day, baby. That serial number. I am a sucker for that. So obviously comment down below. Obviously, it also depends on the variation of the card. Is it an autograph? Is it not? Is it a sticker auto? Is it not? Obviously, you know, like you mentioned, Prizm sticker autos. Andy, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never bought one single Prizm sticker auto. I just haven't. I have bought Optic on-card autos. So for me, I'm Optic all day over Prizm. But it is a very interesting conversation to have. And, you know, with Select coming out, you know, we have fawned over that Ja'Marr Chase zebra print Select card. You know, I've always said this about Prizm, right? I'm a big Prizm guy. I like Prizm just fine. But I do think there is a hyper focus on Prizm. I do also think, Andy, a lot of people are kind of confused by Prizm. Let's just say you're new, jumping back into the hobby. There's a lot of people, Andy, that still, and you could see the listings on eBay, they don't know the difference between a silver Prizm and just base Prizm, because a silver Prizm is technically a Prizm, if that makes sense. If you know cards, you know, everything I said just makes sense. But you can see how that's confusing for people to come back into the hobby, because a lot of people do list a base card as this card is a Prizm. Well, it's technically a Prizm, but it's not Prizm. And for those that are confused by that, there's base Prizm, and then there's obviously a different type of Prizm where it says Prizm on the back of the card. If you're watching on YouTube, you could see it. It's going to have that Prizm brand on there. It's very confusing. Whoever thought that through didn't really think it all the way through. Whereas with me, Andy, I'm a sucker for the rated rookie logo. And with Optic, ooh, baby, that rated rookie logo. And if you don't believe that rated rookie logo has some pull in the hobby, go talk to some real hobbyists, right? Andy, you do it every day. Think of the a guy I mentioned a lot, the David Hunters of the world, the people that have been in the business for a while, they look forward to that rated rookie logo. And to add one more thing to the Optic conversation, right? You know, there's a lot of rated rookie logos you just see just in general, in the general public, right? I know Panini has a deal with the Draft Network, which is like a big, draft website. And what is it? They have the rated rookie logo plastered everywhere. It is iconic. So for me, you mentioned a minute ago the print runs and all of that. I'm a sucker for Optic and that serial number, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, and I've studied several players. Like I did a deep analysis on Jerry Jeudy whenever his card prices spiked after the Broncos signed Russell Wilson. And what I found was that the Optic autograph cards went up, increased at the same rate, the same percentage as the contenders, as flawless and immaculate, just at a different price tier. So it was very interesting to see that they are just as desirable, just as liquid. In fact, in a lot of cases, I think now that the hobby is leaning towards the Optic. I don't know. It's all those reasons you just mentioned. I would love to get everybody out there's opinion on this. So please drop a comment on this. But I do see these cards kind of slowly taking over. There's a little bit more scarcity, and I think they are becoming more desirable. Plus, a lot of these autographs are on card. I mean, look at that autograph. That was on a sticker. It's probably going to be missing a portion of the autograph because of how he signs the card. So, yeah, I mean, you look at this autograph from Javonte, it's not nearly as embellished or I don't know, as freestyled as this one,
Right.
you know?
And speaking of autographs, I do want to bring up our guest later this week. So on Thursday, we will have one of the prominent voices in the hobby, Lou Janu. I know a lot of you are familiar with the Card Talk podcast. We talked about Lou on an episode last week. And obviously, a lot of people that watch our show probably watch Card Talk. And someone sent Lou the clip of us talking about him, and he reached out to us, and we're like, yeah, we gotta get him on the show. And, a little bit later, I mean, this guy obviously has a more macro view outside of just football cards, but he drops a lot of good nuggets on popularity, right? You can't just force something into being popular, right? So while you watching this or listening to this might think, well, I do like Optic better than Prizm, sometimes it's just not how things go, right? Sometimes, the prices are the prices. And we're not going to talk too much about it later this week, but we will in the episode with Lou. Lou does talk a lot about the quarterback versus a position player thing, and he shared some very interesting insight. So a little bit later this week, we'll have him on the show, and it's funny that his biggest autograph, his favorite autograph, features a sticker auto that is probably the most interesting sticker auto I've ever seen. So that'll be coming up a little bit later, and that's why it's very important for you to subscribe, ring the bell, and all that stuff so you don't miss out on any of these episodes. So once again, comment down below. Let us know Optic versus Prizm. So in just a second, we're going to talk about listing cards. But really quickly here, Andy, there are a bunch of new people that are getting back into football cards, right? And they're very interested in football cards in general. And we'll touch on this very briefly now because there's a lot of college product being released on brand new players that just went to rookie teams. It's very interesting, Andy, to bring up the difference between college uniform and pro uniform cards.
Yeah, and this goes back many years, Carter. I've studied this extensively for several years now because these college uniform products are very hot because they're pretty much the only things out there for these players, and so they're very liquid right now. But once the cards come out with their pro uniforms, those are definitely more desirable, more liquid, and they take over that main stage in the hobby as the kind of go-to card or the gold standard for any given player. Now, it's not to say that college cards are all going to turn into trash. No, I think there's a lot of cards out there that are going to maintain value. You can go and look at the resale value of a Jamar Chase autograph, serial numbered card in his LSU uniform. It's still doing just fine. But, that's not going to be the case for all players. It really depends on what college they went to, how rare that card is, and the difference between licensed and unlicensed. The unlicensed one don't have any team logos, team trademarks. They're licensed directly through the player, through the name, image, and likeness program. So, those are different. It still has the player's penmanship if you're getting autograph cards, and Leaf does make a very good card. But, The Panini ones actually have the college name they went to. It's got the college logos on there. And so they have a little bit more information about the player statistics at college on the back of the card, that kind of thing. And so there's a little bit more variation there. And of course, it comes with the Panini brand and all those pro uniform designs. Like when they put pro uniform designs on college uniform cards, they've done well and they're continuing to do well. And that's why they're releasing Mosaic draft picks this year and Prizm draft picks, select draft picks. These are two new sets that previously were not around. These were cards that would just get released as part of Chronicles draft picks, but now they're actually have their own sets coming out, which is just going to add that much more college uniform supply into the marketplace. So there's going to be a lot of early season flipping on rookies. I would do it. I would list them ASAP because the chances of those holding value long term are low.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why I don't like ripping college product, Andy, even though I do like college uniform cards. And I'll share the story. That's how you and I got connected, right? I bought a bunch of Joe Burrow LSU uniform cards, and I was watching your channel, and you were saying sell them immediately. And that's how, our friendship and the show really began. And, I am a college over NFL guy. This is what I do full time, is college football analysis, right? But it is true, college uniform cards don't hold weight. It is interesting, though, Andy, I'm a part of these, LSU card Facebook groups. Joe Burrow college uniform cards still go for, quite a bit. But that is a very hyper-focused regional card, right? Those cards sell for a lot in LSU Facebook groups. Now, there will be collectors of college uniform cards because, look, there's people that love college football. Card collector too, right? Big Ohio State guy. Now, he understands that, pro uniform cards, go for more, but, he's a huge Ohio State fan. So if you like college uniform cards, go for it. I do. But at the same time, understand that once the pro uniform cards come out in that player, these cards just aren't as desirable from a flipping standpoint. So if you are trying to build a college uniform card collection, one of the best things for you to do is do something, Andy, that's really hard to do in this hobby. Be patient, because if you're patient, you will save yourself hundreds, if not thousands, if you want to build a super big college PC.
Yeah, that's a great point, Carter. Great point, especially prime example, George Pickens. His cards, college uniform, autograph cards are going for over $100 right now, Carter. He's in that Romeo Dobbs stratosphere right now of rookies that are just insanely hyped up. I think George Pickens has got a lot more merit to his hype than Romeo Dobbs, but that's my opinion based on his college resume. George Pickens, I mean, he's a stud, but so yeah, that's a fantastic point, because these you can absolutely acquire these, I would say, end of November, December timeframe for much, much less than what they are at now. I mean, we're talking 2, 3, 4 times less than what they are at now. That's how much they will drop off, because I've seen that happen with all the hottest quarterbacks and skill position players for the past several years. And if you're buying them now, just make sure you're targeting scarcity and being okay with paying up, paying up for that player right now and that card.
And it's interesting how hot some of these college products are going to be, Andy, with no bona fide star quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? And not only are there no bona fide star, early draft quarterbacks, none of them really played at big schools, right? Kenny Pickett played at Pitt. Desmond Ridder played at Cincinnati. Malik Willis, Liberty. Matt Corral, Ole Miss. So it is very, very interesting. I'm going to be very interested to see what the prices do on that. I'm also a big Treylon Burks guy, but I'm not really a Razorback fan. But I think Treylon Burks college uniform card is going to be very interesting, because there are a lot of Arkansas fans, and there's not a lot of Arkansas star NFL players. So maybe that card becomes a little bit more desirable. So it is very, very interesting. But for the most part, just be mindful of college uniform spending. And Andy, there's, and this is something that's not talked a whole lot about in the hobby, but retail shelves are healthier than they've ever been in the past couple of years. And you can walk into any Walmart and you can walk into any Target, and there's going to be, and I traveled to Alabama recently and I walked into a few Walmarts. There is a stock shelf of these pro set college uniform boxes. I saw a 2021 Panini Contenders box. You know what I'm talking about? The one with Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence on the cover. Reduced price, just sealed, sitting there. There's going to be a lot of this that's still going to be on the shelves. And I'm telling you, you got to get really lucky to pull something that people really, really, really want. So that's something else, Andy. It's always that itch, man, when you walk into a Walmart and you're getting a rack of ribs or you're getting a light bulb or you're getting your tire fixed in the auto center. You're like, let me go walk around. And then you're like, holy crap, I could buy this blaster box with maybe $5 worth of cards in it for $27.88. So I know it's tantalizing, but always be careful because it is very, very risky with any wax, but especially college wax.
Yeah, the retail product is definitely more diluted. I think that's why we're seeing boxes sit on shelves. And I was actually lucky enough to get a box of Optic. And I think they did sell out on Target's online store, but one of our patrons in the Discord, 402 Collector, actually posted up a link, boxes in Target, and so a few of us were able to get boxes of Optic at retail prices. So it'll be interesting to see what that hit rate's like.
Let's go. Jamar Chase 101 about to get pulled right here on the FB Card Quest, man. It's interesting. Select obviously around the corner. We're really excited about that. But Andy, this is something that I'm going to call myself out on here for hobby tip of the week. Okay. And it's simple. I didn't practice what I preached. So, and I want to share with, I want you to share with all our lovely listeners what I told everybody to do last week.
List your cards, like get active listing cards, get at least 10, 20, as many as you can listed and capitalize on this preseason hype cycle that we're in.
And what did I do, Andy? Tell the people what I did.
You didn't list any.
I didn't list any. And I was calling everybody out. It's like, list at least 10 cards this week. So I've got to do it now. I think you should just fire me as a co-host here. Like that is me just not doing what I said I should have done. And but here's what's funny, Andy, is there were some courageous and smart patrons that were inspired by my message last week that actually got to it. So let's shout them out, man. Shout out to J Kid. Are you kidding me? 64 cards scheduled.
Yeah, man. Our man J Kid was all over it. And I actually, shout out to J Kid. He was the person as well that's like, get your listing started on your computer, whether it's through the comp process and clicking sell one like this or using an eBay template. Get it set up as a draft and then use your phone to take the picture and submit the listing. It's a very quick process, and that way you don't have to transfer any photos from your phone to your computer and do any of that. You just get it set up as a draft on your computer, take the photos with your phone, and click that list button.
And he listed on his phone. So he types it out, and then he takes a photo, and he could just list it right then and there. I've never done that. That's actually a really, really good tip. And Andy, I know you've done a video on doing your eBay listings faster. So make sure you check it out on the Fantasy Football Card Quest. We also got to shout out James 88. Look at that, baby. Got
Cat Prescott, as he calls him, on the job. James 88, big Dallas Cowboys fan. Got Cat Prescott there on the job. Looks like he's taking a break, probably exhausted from listing all those cards. But these were all listings that James got up on eBay last week, inspired by Carter's message of listing cards. We just got to get you in the game, Carter. I in fact listed about 50 cards myself last week. And it's funny what happens when you list cards, especially right now, you sell them. Like I sold a nice Chris Olave card, college uniform card. I can't believe some of these prices I'm getting for them. I'm using plain white envelope shipping. And I mean, I'm selling these cards that are probably going to be $1.99 card in the next few months. Right now, you can get $5, $10, $15 for them. And, just turn them around. If you ripped any 2022 Chronicles product, I sold a Drake London this morning. Brandon Ayuk, sold some of my Tua cards. I'm selling all kinds of cards right now. I think I sent out like 6 or 7 yesterday, in addition to like 4 or 5 last Friday. So things are heating up, man.
Yeah. So hobby tip of the week is do that. Don't be like me. Just do it. I don't know. I guess it's just my overall laziness. Sometimes, I just can't get rid of cards. I was like, I kind of want to hold on to this one. And shout out to Perry Collectibles as well. Perry's one of the sharpest patrons out there. He is actually doing something smart. He's saying, look, I bought a bunch of base cards. I'll take some L's on it, get some money in, and then put that into cards that I really want. And I think a lot of people are doing that, Andy. Like, you buy base cards and they're not as much as they used to be, and they may not ever go back up. You just list them, sell it, and then you can put that money into a card that you actually want that is actually scarce or numbered. Get yourself an Optic numbered on-card auto. So shout out to Perry Collectibles. And that's what's really cool about the Fantasy Football Card Quest Patreon. You get to be a part of the Discord and you get to be a part of the conversation. You can message Andy, you can message me, or you can message people in there that are way smarter than any of us, and they'll help you, right? That's the cool thing about the community. So it goes a very, very long way. So that's my hobby tip of the week, Andy. Once again, just keep listing, baby, and take advantage of this hype cycle.
And that's a great message, because selling cards is not always about taking a profit. Sometimes it's breaking even or taking a small loss, but to move the card because you've held it for a while, to then take that money and roll it into a new card that you feel has more upside, that brings you some more excitement, that is fresh, because I think there absolutely is an element of having a certain card for a long enough time, and maybe you're not super passionate about it, and maybe you're not going to double your money on it, but you can break even on it. You've got a willing buyer out there. Go ahead and sell it. Why not? And roll that into another card and get something new in your life, right? I mean, I think one of the most fun aspects of buying cards, and this is just me, is buying cards, or the football card journey is actually buying the cards, opening them up, and holding that card in your hand for the first time. I think there's a lot of cards for me that kind of depreciate in my own emotional attachment to them after I open them up and kind of check them out for the first time, and especially after I list them on eBay. There's kind of like that. I have to detach myself from that card emotionally and be prepared to sell it, even if it is a card that I consider for my PC. Everything's got its price, and I can always find a new deal down the road and get in,
There you go. So is that your hobby tip of the week as well? Is list?
That's it. And just like try not to think just because you bought this card for a year ago for let's just use an example, right? When 2020 Select came out, at first it did really well. So like I was buying 2020 Select field level cards, base field level cards, for between $15 to $30, especially like on quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, Tua, those kind of guys. And now those cards are still, they're going for about the same price, even though they're pretty hyped up. And that's just because the Select brand as a whole kind of went down in value. It was diluted big time from the retail release. And I'm okay with breaking even on those cards based on the amount of time that I've held them. And I don't want to risk, those players losing hype and then not even being able to break even, like not having those cards even worth $5. So, I think it's just be okay with breaking even on certain cards, or even losing a couple dollars to go ahead and move that volume and roll that into new stuff. Now that I'm more knowledgeable, now that I have a lot more experience, I mean, it's okay, so that's my hobby tip of the week.
There you go. So now it's time for play of the week. We normally do this like midway through the episode, but we didn't do it today, and I'm kind of happy we didn't. Is we talk about like the quarterback market and just the market in general. The bottom line is it's only going to get hotter as the season gets closer, right? For the most part, prices on everybody goes up. You and I have always found Jalen Hurts prices to be the absolute most fascinating, and the Eagles have a really good team this year, right? This is a big year for Hurts and them, but obviously, the big news is the Zach Wilson injury. It's not as serious as like the Twitter doctors is what I call them. Everybody was like trying to be first. Have you seen this, Andy? There's like these Twitter doctors out there. And I will say this, like I know quite a few people in the sports medicine industry that have actually worked on like professional athletes. And they all tell me to be weary of the Twitter doctors out there, right? That are able to watch a video and diagnose the injury. Sometimes they're right, this time they were very wrong, right? Zach Wilson's going to be fine. He'll be back in like a month or however long it takes, but he's not out for the year. So, I'm sure, Andy, there were some people that were trying to fire sale Zach Wilson. Be careful with these injury news. It is very interesting. So, once again, Andy, before I get play of the week, your overall thoughts on just QB markets and just the overall market in general as we move closer to the season.
Yeah, most QBs are appreciating in value. Even Patrick Mahomes' prices are going back up from where they were at. They're probably down 50, 60% in June, towards the end of June, beginning of July. Now that he's come out on the field, I think he went 6 for 7, 60 yards and a touchdown, did a little sidearm pass, a couple of nice passes to Kelsey and the guys. So, his hype is already picking back up. Plus the defense put quite a bit of pressure on the other team. So it's to understand that most of these quarterbacks, especially the quarterbacks that played well from last year, they're all appreciating. They're all very hyped up, driving the market. And man, a great time to take some profits. Take some profits on the guys that have that hype. The other guys that we're waiting on, like Russell Wilson. You're not necessarily selling Russell Wilson right now because you know that revenge game is week 1 against the Seahawks. Same thing with Baker Mayfield. You know that revenge game is week 1 against the Browns, and you are absolutely wanting to hold that card for that game. You want to sell after those games because I guarantee you that's when that hype is going to spike for those players. And I'm looking at guys like my play of the week. I'm going to steal your guy, Carter. I'm going to steal your guy right now because I watched the film study on Treylon Burks from Saturday, or it was Friday night, I think it was when they played. And he got open so many times, man. He got open so many times. He did a great job. And yet he's buried down the depth chart. And he played with Malik Willis, and Malik Willis had a couple nice runs, a couple nice passes, but none of it was to Treylon Burks. But if you actually looked at what Treylon Burks did on a route by route basis, he did incredible, man. And so I think there's a kind of a fallout on him right now. He's being pushed way down draft boards as the depth chart was just released, and he's like number 5 on it. And so I think this presents an opportunity because nobody's seen him play on the field yet with Ryan Tannehill, who's a much better quarterback with more NFL experience than Malik Willis, and going through his scan progressions, actually, targeting the open wide receivers. So I think Treylon Burks is absolutely, he could shock a lot of people come week 1 when Tennessee Titans actually have to throw the ball with Ryan Tannehill behind center.
My play of the week is and I'm a big Burks guy. He was my number 1 receiver, and I've already gotten some bad tweets from people saying you're so wrong about this. Oh my goodness.
Look at the film study. There's a guy who did a film study on Burks, every route that he ran from Friday night. I mean, the dude's legit. He looks like a stud out there. You just got to throw him the ball.
Right. Sometimes card prices don't affect reality. I think Najee Harris, I think, is a really, really, really good running back. His card prices are still kind of sort of expensive for me, and he's an Alabama running back and a Steelers running back. I don't get why, there's a lot of Najee hate out there, and he's sliding. I was able to get him at the 17th pick in a best ball draft, 17th for a guy that's going to get that level of volume. I like Najee Harris coming out of Alabama, and I've seen him play a lot. But I'm always, that's why I wore my Terrell Davis shirt, even though it's old and it's got hot dog neck or whatever. And I got my J Hill jersey. I love running backs. It's hard to buy their car. It's really hard to buy their cards. But it is interesting. My play-ish of the week, just keep an eye out on two players, Adrian Peterson and LaDainian Tomlinson cards. And I know that's not current, whatever, but it is still amazing. There's this guy, Brooklyn Barry Bright, who has built just this incredible LaDainian Tomlinson collection. And you can, get really cool cards of both LaDainian Tomlinson and Adrian Peterson for $200, $300, $400 range. It's very interesting. But my real play of the week, though, even though I wanted to talk about running backs here at the end, Andy, is Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I don't know if we're going to include what we did in the outtakes of this. So I will say this, okay? Odell is still one of the biggest stars in the NFL. Now, how much of that is reflected in reality? I don't know, right? I do know this, though, Andy. If you were to say who's had the better career, would it be Mike Evans or would it be Odell Beckham? Well, it'd be Mike Evans, right? The 1,000-yard streak. Obviously, Mike Evans towards the back end of his career now, but he's playing with Brady and he might win another Super Bowl this year. But Odell is such a big star. And, he's got Drake. He's got all these people that love this guy. He's got the Instagram followers. He's got the look. And card prices don't fully reflect that at all. And, it's just hype versus, reality. But the truth is, if Odell Beckham were to sign with the Bills, right? One of Odell's closest friends is Von Miller. Von Miller makes the move from the Rams to the Bills. Odell's cards are going to go to the freaking moon. And you and I were talking about this before this episode began. Odell's rookie ticket autos float for around $50-ish, 60. It's pretty low for a guy that's accomplished what this guy's accomplished. Yes, the years in Cleveland were rough. Yes, his career has been very injury riddled, so on and so on and so on. But this is a perfect example of nobody actually looking at this guy. And then, when he actually does make news, when he actually does sign, he might sign back with the Rams. But if he does sign with the Bills, if he does sign with the Packers, who he was really close to signing with this last cycle, it's going to create a lot of news. It is going to be A-block news on NFL Live. It's going to be just crazy, and it's going to be nuts. It really will. So Odell is a sneaky, decent play for me right now, Andy, simply because there's just so much that comes along with the name Odell Beckham Jr.
I think it's a great time to buy Odell and stash him. He's one of those guys you buy now, you stash for the playoffs when he does sign with a team, whether it's the Rams, the Bills. He's going to sign with a contender at some point in the playoffs. So I think it's a pretty safe bet, and that doesn't even incorporate his popularity, his fame off the field.
And wherever he signs, he's going to have one big spike week because he's so supremely talented. When he's fully healthy, locked in, and ready to go, he is God tier when it comes to route running, hands, acrobatic catches. I think he's still got some gas left in the tank. I know he's coming off this injury. I totally get it. But the truth is this guy could still play. Is that the LSU in me? Maybe. I was at school when Odell was at school, so I'm always going to have a connection to this guy. But, I mean, I just think that this is just screaming in my face that this guy could see his cards go to the moon again. So
yeah, and he's the perfect candidate right now, as you can see here on the screen. Target him in auction. If you've got a save search for 2014 Odell Beckham, maybe put PSA 10 in there. target him in auction, because you can see in auction, because he's not very hyped up right now, the injury and everything, you can get some really good deals. Like you could have immediately flipped this Topps Chrome rookie PSA 10 in auction, got it for $18.50, and then turned around and sold it for $40 or $50 right now, even, because there's collectors out there that will pay $40 or $50 for a Topps Chrome rookie Odell Beckham Jr. PSA 10, even though he's not playing, just because of his fame and his previous merit and hype that he has. So understand, cards like this are not good to send to auction right now, but as a buyer, you absolutely want to target them in auction.
Never forget, Cooper Cup PSA 10s going for $35 before last year. It's amazing. And always get some good deals on wide receiver. And wide receiver obviously is the second biggest position in the hobby behind quarterbacks. Now, it's a pretty significant gap between the two positions, but it is something to keep an eye on, especially with its connection to fantasy football. Well, Andy, it was another fine episode. And once again, we want you to comment. If you're listening to this on a podcast, give us that 5-star review. Send us a message. He's at FF Card Quest. I'm at Power Hour LSU or at Carter the Power, either one. Let us know, Optic or Prizm. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comment section below, Optic or Prizm. It's whatever floats your boat. And make sure check us out on Patreon. Now, Andy, our guy Lou Jano, dropping that conversation later this week, man. We already got it ready to go, and Andy, it was fun. It got pretty wild, man.
Dude, it was incredible. I learned a tremendous amount from Lou, and it was such a pleasure to have him on. I mean, I really enjoyed that conversation. I think the community will as well.
Yeah, and don't forget, we did drop the J Jets 18 card collector conversation with Bazang. I love that name, the French. One of the best super collectors and one of the best breakers in the hobby. He gave us some good insight on both of those. That's already posted, so make sure you go check that out. Okay, and until next week, Andy. Peace. Let's go. With some cards, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, you give bit. Welcome to episode 54, man. Can you believe it?
I thought it'd be more. I don't keep up with like the numbers. Like I started listening to what was it? It was JJ Zacharija.
Oh yeah, JJ Zacharison.
Yeah, Zacharison. And he does like, not only does he do like episode 1476, not only does he give the numbers, let me see if this thing's going to turn on, but he also remembers what happens in like each episode. It's like he knows, like he remembers, like in episode 362, I talked about how you can judge a tight end by his pinky toenail. Like he's all the way down to the very last detail. I like him a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, I see you tweeting, trying to, get my subscribers to unfollow me because of my draft deal.
Hey, man, you posted up the picture of all the Alabama and Florida players, the FSU players. Like,
yeah, and
you
then
didn't have a single LSU guy on there. And I'm having a feeling where you took Dalvin Cook, you may have been able to get Chase, but he may have been off the board. I don't know.
And to go one step further, I my next pick was DK Metcalf. So I'm just going. For now, like if I'm deciding between two players, I'm going to pick the player that just goes along with the thing. If you played in the SEC or and I think if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look this up. So, like these recruiting stories, and I've learned a lot of it, from Jeremy. right? He's taught me a lot about like how difficult it is to like make a recruiting decision when you're like, you're getting courted by every school, right? Like, let's take Jay Hill for instance, right? He's from Louisiana. His teammate Lyle Collins, who's down with the Bengals, so they were on the same high school team. Could you imagine that?
Wow.
They were on the same high school team at Redemptorist, and they just murdered everybody. They just handed the ball and he just ran bam. Like, it's crazy. High school highlights are crazy. But
Lyle Collins, a big boy, man, on the O line.
Isn't that crazy? On a high school team. So, like Lyle's going to LSU, right? Lyle was always going to LSU, I believe. But even then, like you're getting recruited. Like Nick Saban wanted Germany a lot, right? And look, you can go to LSU all you want. If Nick Saban's calling me, are you kidding me? I'm interested, right? And also, this is something that I think about a lot because this guy wasn't big in the NFL. But do you know how many running backs probably like early 30s, late 20s? Do you know how big like Reggie Bush was to them?
Massive.
Every running back wanted to be Reggie Bush. So if you go look, JL showed me that. It was really cool. He wore an Allen Iverson arm sleeve. You know what I'm talking about? Like the compression.
Yeah.
Sleeve. And Reggie Bush wore one when he played. And then JL was telling me like a lot of running backs tried to do it. they all wanted to be like I wanted to be like Reggie Bush, and it's just crazy like how big Reggie Bush was. And I'm sometimes fascinated, Andy, by these guys that are like college superstars, and then they get to the NFL, and they're not bad NFL players, but they're not great NFL players either. Like Reggie is like the perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like his New Orleans Saints mixtape is still insane. Like
it's insane. When he was on the field, right? Like he was just so fragile. It felt like when he was in the NFL level.
Reggie,
I always felt like, man, and then I realized it's that kind of archetype is more fragile, right? That's super speedy, but a little bit smaller frame. He didn't have a super high BMI, He wasn't as thick as guys like LaDainian Tomlinson or Adrian Peterson. He was faster and sleeker, I guess, if you will. But he got hurt a lot more.
And as you can tell, I'm going all out running back here. So got the jersey here, got the TD shirt. I'm a big Terrell Davis fan. And I don't know, like I've always just kind of liked Georgia players. LSU and Georgia, LSU's gotten the better of Georgia more often than not. They don't play all that often. But I've always just liked Georgia. I've always did. I think a lot of their players are cool. Athens is a great college city. I learned a little bit about our guest, Lou. His sister goes to Georgia.
Oh, cool.
And look, Georgia's had a lot of fun players. Here's another one of those Reggie Bush guys who was really freaking good in college, went to the NFL, and was really good. Remember Noshawn Moreno?
Yeah, man. I love Noshawn Moreno on the Broncos. He was the man, dude.
Noshawn Moreno. And there's so many of these running backs that were really freaking good in college, and they go to the NFL, and they're still good. Like, they don't make the occasional Pro Bowl or lead the NFL in touchdowns. It's just, the drop-off is just so precipitous, right? Mm-hmm. And another one of those guys stick with the Broncos is like Melvin Gordon right now, dealing with the foot issues. And Melvin Gordon's been a really good NFL back. Is he great? No. But it's just crazy, like, how big your fall off can be at that position. It just blows my mind, really.
From a rookie, from being a rookie to just going into like your age 27, 28 season. Like all these 2017 guys are, this might be the year where they start to decline, man. There's so many of those guys still going in the first few rounds of drafts, and this might be the year they decline. We'll see.
I think Dalvin Cook's going to have a big year. I do. I really, really do. I like the way
I do too.
I like the way he fits in. I'm drafting him a lot. There's two running backs I'm drafting a lot here, Andy. Dalvin Cook, and I'm talking myself back into Saquon hype. I am.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that lose in fantasy this year with the 1.1 and the 1.2, right? I think the Colts are going to throw more. I also think the Panthers offense, I just don't like the way this whole thing is going with Matt Rule. And if I had the 1.1 in fantasy leagues, especially like in best ball, I'd probably still draft like Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. But man, I look at Kevin O'Connell and I look at, the Vikings. I'm just going to really like their offense. I mean, Kirk can really spin it. I think their defense is going to be okay. I think their games could be a little bit more track meatish, if you will. And I think Jefferson and Dalvin Cook have a better shot than we would like to think of both of them finishing like in the top 3 at both of their positions.
Have you seen I'm sure you have, like all the reports from Justin Jefferson this preseason, like, well, not preseason, but training camp. I mean, he's just won on every single route, every single rep. I mean, he's just absolutely dominating. So I'm smashing the button on Justin Jefferson now ahead of Cooper Kupp. I'm not gonna lie. Justin Jefferson has become my number 1 wide receiver off the board, like around pick 4 or 5. If those top running backs are gone.
I also think one thing that's a little under the radar here, everyone's making a big deal about, Matthew Stafford's elbow as well. I think he'll be fine. Stafford's he's one of the toughest sons of guns you'll ever meet, right? And one day I'll tell you about my run-in with Matthew Stafford. It was kind of bizarre. But
a Georgia player, man.
Yeah, I love me some Georgia players, man. I don't think I'm going to lose LSU subscribers considering we really have dominated Georgia for the most part. Beat them in the 19 championship game, beat them in the 11 championship game, both times really badly. And then in 2018, they came to Tiger Stadium, and Joe Burrow beat them down. And this was before Burrow became Burrow. But what's really interesting is I think people kind of sort of forget how bad McVay coached in the playoffs. And I know it sounds bizarre. I mean, how can you say that? He won a Super Bowl. Yeah, but he also gave up some big leads. And he started running the football, trying to back into wins, coaching conservatively. And, he almost lost them a few games. They were lucky to win the 49ers game. The Buccaneers game would have been the biggest collapse ever. And it took Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp to bail McVay out every game. Yes, he beat the Cardinals, but Cooper Kupp and Stafford beat Tampa Bay. Cooper Kupp and Stafford beat San Francisco, and then they won the Super Bowl. The same exact.
Yeah. And Aaron Donald, Von Miller on defense. If it wasn't for some of those QB pressures and those sacks they got, there's no way they would have lost those games too.
And for a few games, he got, arguably the most overall talented wide receiver of the past decade. He got Odell back at fully locked in and healthy Odell Beckham. And I don't think McVay. I don't know. It's interesting. Him and Shanahan are like two of the brightest offensive minds. but they don't go for it on fourth down. They're very conservative on fourth down.
Another cool J Hill story, right? So him and Odell are friends, right? Because they played on the same team. So think about this offense. It was at LSU. It was Jeremy Hill at running back, Lyle Collins on the offensive line. You remember Zach Mettenberger? Like he won a few NFL games. Or Met? I'm a huge Met fan. I always keep one of his rookie autos just right here.
Nice.
And so Lyle, and you probably don't know this name, Trey Turner. He was a Pro Bowl guard for the Panthers for a few years, and I think he's still with the Steelers. And they had Odell freaking Beckham. So think about like peak Odell, and they had peak Jarvis Landry, all on the same offense, and they won 10 games, but we could never beat Bama with those guys. We had a few heartbreaking losses, but it's crazy. Like it's one of our best. It doesn't get discussed because we just had Burrow and those guys, but that offense was just crazy. But something Jay always brings up to me is like how big of a star Odell Beckham Jr. is, like, and his card prices don't reflect that at all. Like, you could build a very good Odell collection for a decent amount. He's probably not going to be in the Hall of Fame unless something like, with all the injuries and bad teams and all of that. I could see the media not loving this guy because of, his perception or whatever. But the one thing that's very interesting, Andy, is Odell is still the biggest non-QB star in the sport. And everybody in the NFL wants to be him. I am not joking about that. It's not just like the Drake thing. It's not just like, the A-list superstars just like Odell, because he's got the look. He's an extremely good looking dude, but he has the crazy hair. He's got the dancing. He's got, he's just a star, right? But what's interesting is every time Odell walks into a room, he is the biggest star in the room. Doesn't matter who's in there. He's got this kind of glow to him. It's a little bit different. It's kind of hard to explain, really, but I've seen it, and well, me personally, I haven't seen it, post NFL. But when he was at LSU, he just always had this star quality about him, and it's interesting because I'm going to be very interested to see what his post playing career is going to be like, because I don't think he's going to be a broadcaster. I don't think he's going to be a coach, but I could see him like doing something. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's politics, but I would guess he would be some kind of entertainment something. I could see him hosting hosting Super Bowl parties or whatever. But he is such a huge star. And it blows my mind because like Christian McCaffrey dates Olivia Culpo, like the supermodel or whatever. But not everybody knows that, right? But McCaffrey has had a better career. He's also been very injured, but he's not really a star, right? Odell's just this global superstar. All these international soccer players talk about Odell Beckham. Just the whole world knows who this, for the most part, knows who this guy is. And it's crazy. You could build a pretty filthy Odell collection. Now, I sold my Odells during the Super Bowl hype window because, that it was time to max out. But
somebody got a snipe. Like I look at a PSA 10 rookie ticket auto Odell that went for 150.
It's filthy.
Just somebody put it to auction. See, that's the thing. You never know when somebody's going to put a card like that to auction. PSA 10 sold for 152 when the last one, even in July, sold for 250.
God bless America, dude. Holy.
See what I'm saying? Serial numbered on-card auto from Optic. I'm telling you, these Optic on-card autos are money, Carter. If you can buy low in a player in this card, I mean, you are sitting sweet. It's extremely liquid. I would put this card as liquid as any of the national. I'd put it right up there with NT, Immaculate, you know, if you were to compare scarcity, like if you were to look at a numbered out of 75 from iMac or NT with the auto, these cards are very, very liquid, man.
Ooh, oh, it's a serial number match. Dang it.
Yeah, details.
Did they include that in the listing?
No, the knucklehead didn't even include that.
Oh no, they didn't. There's no way.
Nope. He puts a picture of it, but says nothing about it in the listing.
Oh no, especially since he's number 1, and like the first. Oh my god, no, that cost him.
Yeah.
That probably no less. That cost him $250 on that list.
Probably, because that's a gorgeous card.
Let me see. What's the Let me see the feedback on this. Big feedback.
Yeah, big time seller.
So he might, it might not mean that much to him, you know, if you're selling that much inventory.
Yeah.
See if these actually become a thing. With like actual NFL teams. I'm sending this in you. I think you'd find this interesting.
Okay.
Even though it's soccer, I kind of just want to buy a box of this just so it could sit on my shelf. But this does make me really want to rip this product.
Just for the team, official LFC team set, including either guaranteed autographed or relic. Now, if they could get that as a game used relic, that would be sick. And like actually, like Lou said, tag that game.
They're gonna get my money, man. Damn it, they're gonna get my money. Oh man, I don't even like soccer cards.
But you're a big liver. Look at you, got the hat on, man.
Hat, man. I'm gonna take it off. It's distracting. But yeah, if they do that for the Saints.
I mean, I did it when the I've still got it sealed too. When the Bucks won the Super Bowl.
Oh,
I bought the Panini. I still have it sealed. The championship set. Yeah. I bought it immediately. You know, I bought a shirt and I bought the set. Oh, I just sold a nice little lot of Brandon Ayuk cards.
On a BIN just now?
Yep. Yeah, I just got a nice little offer on a lot of base optics for $25. Accept.
Look at you.
Yeah, dude, I sent out 4, 5, 6 cards yesterday. I sold my, I don't know if you caught this, but I bought that gold field level Antoine Winfield Jr. And was serial numbered out of 10. It's a gold select field level. I bought it in auction for $45, about $50 out the door with shipping. I just sold it for $100. And I haven't held that card very long. Honestly, I wasn't going to sell it, which I listed it for $109 or $109.95. And the guy offered me $100. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, I got to stick to my guns. He's not like, I love the card. He's super, I'm a fan of his, but at the same time, like a double up on a defensive player just based on the scarcity alone, that was nice. So I accepted that, sent that out yesterday. Dude, I'm selling all kinds of cards right now. It's nice. Sold my Tua Optic Hollow.
Oh, you finally got rid of that?
Yeah, sold the SGC 10. Got 175 for it. It was really close to what, and the guy had good feedback, and him and I messaged back and forth a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this.
And what were you in? What were you in for on the card?
$200. So $60. I bought the card for $30, graded it for $30 with SGC as part of a bulk submission that I did with them, and came back at $10. Listed it for $200, sold it for $175.
Beautiful.
Yeah.